How are you all doing today? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who have been here before, you may be thinking that this screen looks different because you see my big face with no normal background images. Well, that's because I'm going to try something different today, and I'm recording on my iPad. And so this is the last you're going to see my face in this video. All right, what you see here is a very short little story, perhaps even just a memory, which was shared by Gilbert Natchez, who was Pyramid Lake Paiute back in the early 1900s. He shared this story and someone recorded it and then eventually wrote it down. And so I thought it would be neat to have this text here and walk through it to see the grammar of it, to see how the sentences are joined together, how they're stringed together, put together, connected to form a coherent whole. Because previously, the videos I made, I just had individual sentences in isolation, free from any context. We couldn't see what was around it. We couldn't see the surrounding context. But now we can see a little bit of more context in this little story, and again, how the sentences are put together. So before we proceed, let's go ahead and read it. Starting with the Paiute. It says, Semera su tsonomi kapungadzi patsasi, yeishi kautuku suasi, yeishi kautsopigi hupi matsakwini, ubuikweku kapungadziko. All right, let's get right into it, okay? First off, we have this semera. Semera is what we have here translated as once. And that's just kind of a temporal adverb that is introducing what's going to take place. It's just saying once. Something happened. Well, what happened? First, let's look at this word right here. This is an article that introduces the subject of the sentence. Well, what is the subject that is being introduced? Tsonomi. Not sure what kind of bird that is, so we just have it translated here as a tsonomi bird. And again, this is the subject of the sentence. What does a subject do? It is the one that is doing an action. It is doing something. Well, what is being done? Batsa. That happens way at the end of the sentence. Batsa, which means to kill. That is the action. We have a tsonomi bird, and it's killing. Well, what? Is it killing or what is being killed? That is introduced, or the answer is introduced by this article, ka. Ka introduces the direct object, which in this case is pungadzi, a mouse. So the direct object is what is directly affected by the verb, okay? The verb patsa. What is being killed? The direct object is the answer to that question, kapungadzi, okay? Very simple sentence. But notice what we have here. We have this si. This is a suffix that introduces sequential action. It means that there is a sequence of events. We have this first action, kill, but this meaning that there is a sequence, it reveals to us that there is some other actions to follow in sequence, okay? And because this is just the first action of a sequence, then that also helps us to know that this word kill, can be translated as a past tense. It killed, okay? If you have a sequence of events, one following after another, then you know there's going to be something happening in the past tense. Something occurred first, and then something else happened next. So what happens next? That's revealed here. Yeshi kautuku suasi. Well, first, yesh is kind of just something that kind of means and then. Yeshi moves stories along. It progresses stories along, almost like our English then. So something happens and then this thing happened and then something else happened and then. That's kind of what it is. There may be other meanings to it also. In fact, there are. But for simplicity's sake, in this sentence or in this story, it's just kind of moving along and then. So what is the next sequence of events? It is su'a. Su'a is a word that means to eat or ate in the past. It can also mean to consume or to eat up. To eat up. So it ate up. Well, what did it eat up? That, once again, is introduced by the article ka, because a ka is the direct object marker. It introduces the direct object, which in this case is utuku. Utuku. But notice that this ka up here, we basically translate it as an A. The Tsonomi bird killed a mouse. Or you could maybe even translate this as the. It killed the mouse. But this ka has no direct translation here in this English sentence. Because yeshi is translated as and then. Suasi is translated as ate. And then utuku is translated it's meat. Ka has no translation, and that's because it doesn't need a translation in English. It's just a word that is used in Paiute, excuse me, used in Paiute to introduce the direct object, but it doesn't need to be translated, so keep that in mind. A little bit of a fun fact. This word u right here is a third person singular pronoun. It can mean he, it can mean she, or it can mean it. But when it precedes or comes directly before another noun, which in this case is tuku, then it changes into a possessive pronoun. So he becomes his, she becomes her, or it becomes its. That's what this is, its. So the Tsonomi bird ate its meat. Its meat. Well, what does it refer to? Does that mean it ate its own meat? No. Why? There's a different pronoun for that. If it ate its own meat, the word for its own is de. This would mean its own. His, her, or its own. That's a pronoun meaning his, her, or its own. But that isn't being used here. Instead, it's de. And so we know that this cannot be referring to the tsonomi. Tsonomi, okay? De refers back to the subject of a sentence. But u refers back to something else, someone else. So it has to be referring back to the pungadzi, okay? The Tsonomi bird ate its flesh, or in other words, the pungadzi's flesh. Tuku can mean meat or body or flesh. And so the Tsonomi bird ate it all up. But look, we have another SE. We have another SE suffix. So we see that there is another sequence of actions taking place. First, patsasi, and then suasi, and then another sequence follows, which is here. So in this final event, it is tsakwini. Tsakwini means to hang. Or again, we translate it in the past tense here only because we know this is a story that Gilbert shared about something that took place in the past. So even though there's nothing in this word tsakwini to directly mark or indicate past tense, it's just because it was shared about a past event that we know it's translated hung and not hang. So what was hung? Again, ka introduces that direct object, which is utsopigi. Utsopigi, which we have translated. Again, u, the double O is its, referring back to the mouse. It's tsopigi. Tsopigi, which means head. Tsopigi can also mean brain. But then down like in Pyramid Lake and also Walker River and other areas, it refers to the head. And so it either head or brain, it hung. The Tsonomi bird hung the mouse, its head or its brain. How did it hang it? Well, this word answers that question. Hupi. Hupi. This word hupi means stick, which I have right here. Stick. Hupi. But this MA suffix, okay, MA, indicates the instrument used to do an action, or the instrument used to accomplish an action. So in this case, the Tsonomi bird hung the mouse's head or brains onto a stick or with a stick. And that, dun, 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 is what I have here. So sad. Now, technically, perhaps this body shouldn't be there because the Tsonomi bird ate. He ate up, he consumed the mouse's body. but it's the head or the brains that got hung up. And actually, this last portion clarifies that. Ubuikweku, ubuikweku. Bui or pui, of course, means eye, eyeball, eye, and kweku is a suffix that kind of altogether refers to like a place or the location. So buikweku, place or location of the eye, refers to the eye socket. Okay, eye socket. And finally, we have ka, another ka. So this one doesn't introduce a direct object. Rather, ka, this word, can also introduce subordinate clauses. Subordinate clauses, which can help further clarify something, provides more information regarding something. And in this case, the more information is pungarziko. So it hung the mouse's skull or head, brain with a stick onto a stick from its eye socket, uwikwiku kapungarziko, of the mouse's skull. So it's clarifying it's the mouse's skull. Very simple. So that is just a short, kind of brief look at this text. If you like a bird's eye view, which I oftentimes like, then we have that here, okay? So very quickly, conclusion. Su tsunomi bird. I have this here separated out here by itself because this is the only thing doing the action. It is a subject. It's doing all the actions. What are the actions? First, batsa, it killed. But then we have a sequential suffix, so we know this is a sequence of events. Something follows. What follows? Su'a, it ate. But we have another sequence of events, so we know another thing followed, another action followed. What is that other action? Tsakwini. Tsakwini doesn't have an SE suffix here. There's nothing there. So this is the end of it, basically. It's the end. It stops right there. So it killed, it ate, it hung. Well, what did it kill? That's introduced by ka, pungadzi, the mouse. And then eat. What did it eat? That's introduced by ka. It ate utuku, which is its flesh, or referring back to the mouse's flesh. And finally, hang. What did it hang? That also is introduced by ka, which is utsopigi. It hang its head or brains. And again, this last part is just introducing or indicating what it hung with. It hung it with a stick, on a stick from the eye sockets of the mouse's skull or head. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope that made sense. I hope it was clear. Again, I was kind of going fast and just trying to kind of go through a walkthrough, an overview of it. So if it was helpful, please let me know. If it wasn't, please let me know. This is all experimental for me. So I hope you have a good day. And until next time, see you later.